So you guys remember what we have done, right? We have created some backlog items, and you can already see our burn down is in a very bad shape, right? Why is that? That's cumulative flow accuracy. Actually, if you go to sprint, the burn down also should be in a bad shape, right? Nothing has been happening, right? So it's understandable, right? Okay. So we will set this to which is not a good practice, but anyway we will set this to somewhere around tomorrow, right? Right, just to show you how it goes, right? Okay, and it's active now, right? Okay, so okay, we only have one working day remaining, right? Okay, and we have a solution. Okay, unfortunately it's connected to something else. We have created a solution which is having simple console app, right? Console app and a class library. So we'll add a class library as well, just to have the things right. Project. Class library. Call it lib, right? Okay. And since we are going to implement first what is that? First temperature converter. Okay. So I don't know how to convert temperatures, but we will try to do that, right? Okay, I will name this class temp converter. Okay. So you can see something called reference is there, right? What is this actually? Okay. And what do you call this in Visual Studio? Huh? Code lens, right? This is called code lens, and with Visual Studio Online you only get this, right? But if you go with on-premises, you have a lot more, right? It provides you version control. Now we can see that after a few minutes, right? I'll start my other VMs as well, so we can see on-premises how it works, right? Okay. For the time being, now we have gone through how to create work items, tasks, and all those things. Now we need to actually check in our work, right? We have created only the initial solution right now. So we have created the temperature converter class. Now I'll actually create a method as well. Just say public convert. Okay, let's say okay. This is okay. The requirement is not to write the actual application, so I'll just return to something, right? Doesn't matter, right? Convert to F, right? Okay. So basically, implementation done, right? So we need to do few things, right? Okay. When we have done with implementation, we need to check this thing, right? Okay. What is the best practice of checking in? Okay, we already have added to source control. You can see the plus, right? So when we are checking, we need to provide comments, but there is a procedure to checking. And those most of the developers in organizations don't know how to check in actually. So what is the procedure of checking to any version control system? Like okay, TFS is another version control system, but wherever you check in, there's a procedure. What is that? You just check in, right? Okay, since this is the initial time, yes, it's okay to check in. But if you are doing it for the second time, like you check out files and edit and check in, what is the procedure? Okay, first you compile the solution and make sure your changes are properly compiling and working, and then you get the latest version. Now where should you get the latest version? You right click here and get the latest version. Okay, most people do that way, right? Is that the way to do it? No, right? So there is something called source control explorer, right? So you should get latest from here. Why? Right? There can be reference assemblies, etc., etc., right? Which is not part of the solution directly, right? Maybe you are using iTech Sharp DLL to generate PDFs, right? In that case, you need to make sure that is also you are getting, right? So if somebody else added some assemblies, you need to download it. Then you need to compile it, right? And verify with the latest version your changes are okay. And while you get latest, you may encounter certain conflicts, right? Easy ways to auto resolve, right? Resolve automatically. Now, if it is possible to automatically resolve, you will not be asked, right? That will be automatically resolved for you. But if it is not possible to automatically resolve, it will prompt you to resolve the conflicts. Then once it is prompted, you need to use the merge tool and properly analyze the code and resolve it, right? Manually resolve it, right? Using the tool. Then commit, compile, test, and commit, right? So that's the checking procedure, right? Okay, why that is important and when people are not doing that, how to handle that, we will discuss later, right? After checking this in, right? Okay, so we are going to check this in. Okay. When you try to check in, it goes to the pending changes window. Now you know you can unpin this one, right? If necessary, you can unpin in, you can put it somewhere you like, right? Okay, now you have a lot of changes here, right? And you need to provide a proper comment. So I'll just say ensure solution structure added and convert, okay, convert method C to F, right? So these things I have added. So that should be the description, right? You don't have to describe everything that you have done, but you need to give a basic description of the actions that you have done. Okay. And then there's another thing, something called add work items by ID, right? Or use query to add. So normally what should you associate this with? And you can see no personal or favorite queries found, right? So I don't have any queries right now. So how can you resolve that problem? Okay, there is a section called queries, right? These tasks are not yet assigned to anybody. Now, is this a good thing again? Now I have started working on this. Now, if somebody is looking at this project, right, still nothing is started. Again, that is bad, right? So whoever who starts the first task of a user story should activate the user story plus the task, right? So that should be the practice.
So checking is there a way to like put a notice to all developers on the system? So this is a scenario that happened yesterday. Right? So suddenly this company called and said, Machang, I want to put this notice to all my developers in 9 locations worldwide. But it's immediate. I have to send this to them now, not to check in their code for the next 48 hours.
Okay.
They had done some assembly updates on something, they had purchased a new version of Infogestics. So they were trying to deploy it in a local test server and not to check in the code.
Okay.
So is there a way to put a block point?
Okay. Few options, right? One is exclusively logging everything, right? Okay. That is one option. But then if people are checked out as local workspace, that is not useful, right? And one thing is taking out their permissions, temporary. That is one possibility. That's bad workaround again, right? Sending a notification is not. I mean, there's no event to send a notification. That's the problem, right? We don't have an event, right? So we have not done anything. So how can we generate an event? I mean, notification without an event.
Is there a, without blocking the code check-in, is there a way to put like a notice on top of the check-in window or something saying please no?
No. No.
It's a good requirement to have actually.
Yeah.
Ladybug again.
Yes.
There's a reporting tool, anyone can report feature request and all that.
Yeah, that's. I think that would be a useful. This thing not to pending check-ins, right? If you can, if you can have it as like as a message whenever you connect to the Team Explorer, it shows in the Team Explorer notification something like what we see in here, right? We get Visual Studio notifications, and there should be a notification tab in Team Explorer, so you get prompted to that, right? So, and whenever we go to the web access, it should display in the web access homepage as well, right? So right now, okay, we need to first go to backlogs, right? So we need to make sure our work, whatever the user story that we are working on is active, right? So I'm going to the backlog, and I'm going to wait till it comes, and then we're going to the board, right? So this is the place you normally use to discuss your project, right? Now this board is actually backlog board. So you will be actually discussing maybe in sprint plannings, and maybe when you are discussing in reviews using this board, right? So we are doing actually this temperature converter. Now it's active means approved mode in the Scrum template, right? Now there's different states in the Agile template. It's called new, active, resolved, and closed. Now here it's approved, committed, and none. Committed means you are resolved, right? So it's just terminology, right? You need to, I mean, Agile is much easier to understand. This is a little bit confusing, right? So approved means you are actively working on it, right? Right. So we have activated this, plus we need to activate the, right. Now navigation is much easier in this version. Why? Earlier it was like you need to click on sprint and click somewhere here to get the board, right? Now it is like whenever you are in the board, wherever you click, you will be in the board, right? Right. So we need to, okay, we say we have developed the method X, right? So we take it to in progress. Actually this should be done before you even start working on this. That's it. That's the way. So for a task there is only done. Why is that? Can anybody tell me? Yeah. Why there is not resolved state? You had for the user story committed, then approved, and committed state. Now there is no committed state here. Why is that? Any reason? Okay. Now tasks are something that you do, and once you are done with the allocated time, and once you think that is completed, right, you close it, right? Okay, we'll say you have implemented a method, later you find a bug in that, right? So fixing that is it, I mean, you should reactivate that task and do it, or should you create a new task to do this? What do you think?
Okay, new task.
Okay, what is the reason behind you creating a new task and doing that rather than activating this one again? Now you can actually move to done and then make it in progress again. So we are not doing that. You are saying you are actually creating a new task and doing that. So is there a particular reason behind that?
Maybe it's like more than time.
Then the thing is like, okay, it's the reality, right? So if we have done something and we have said, okay, we have completed that is done, right? So there's no way to, I mean, go backwards in the time and redoing it, right? There's no way to do that. So you have to accept that, right? So if you That is why there's no resolve state, right? You can't bring it back, right? In agile template, it's new, active, and closed, right? The tasks are like that, right? So once you close it, it's closed. So if there is anything to be additionally done for this method X, that would be a new task, right? So maybe it is unplanned, so that would add some number of hours into our burn down. We can't help, right? Because it is unplanned, so it should be visible, right? So if you bring back this task, the visibility goes out, right? So that is why you need to make sure you use this properly, right? Okay, so we have now in progress task, right? So what we are going to do, we are going to check in, right? Okay, so again we don't have a query, so we need to create a query. Or do we have a query, right? Okay, one more thing I missed, right? The task is not assigned, right? Ideally it should be assigned to the person who is dragging that. Online it seems it's not happening that way, right? But I think you can assign it from here even, right? So this is a nice feature again, right? You can just assign it from the board itself, right? Save it, right? The on-premises version, when you drag and drop, whoever who drags and drop, automatically it gets assigned, right?
Whoever the person who drag and drop.
Yeah, then you can change it, right? Okay, so now we have assigned it to me, so I should have queries and my tasks, right? There should be a shared query called my tasks. Okay. It's not there in this particular template, so we have to create a one, right? How can we create such thing? Okay, there's something called assigned to me, right? So we can maybe drag and drop this one to my, it's not allowing, right? Okay, we'll save as my queries, my tasks. Okay, then we drag and drop this here. It's not working. I think so. It should work. Okay. Now only another option, add to my favorites, right? So do it that way. Okay, now it's there, right? No. I made the mistake, right? I think you need to bring something from here to here. It'll add. See? Right? Why that is happened that way? It was a my query, not visible to anybody else. So if I try to drag and drop it to team favorites, it should not be possible. It is understandable, right? My queries are not visible to anybody means it cannot be favorites of the team, right? Okay, logically it's correctly working, right? My fault. So we have a query now. Okay, now we'll try to refresh and see if the queries appear here. If that is not happening, how can we make sure that appears again? The problem solver comes. What is the problem solver? In Windows environment, restart. Close Visual Studio and restart.
So old days, Machan.
Still it is like this sometimes.
Oh. But you know, after the party, 8 to 7, the Vista
This is 8.1.
point on my went back.
No, not Windows, Visual Studio. You need to restart. Okay, it comes, right? So we are lucky, right? Okay, now we have two. Why? We have favorites and my tasks, right? My tasks in my queries. So I mean, this is the same query, right? So we can click one of them, and I have a active task here, and it will show you only active tasks. So you can drag and drop here again. Okay, right. So this is the best way. Why I am saying that is like don't try to add work item by ID. Then you might be adding some, some ID which is a task maybe that is belong to another team project, right? So it's going to make a mess. So best way is dragging and dropping this thing, right? Okay, and now this is default to resolve, right? This was something that is raised in user voice as well. Why this is not default to associate? Why this is resolved? Can anybody tell me the reason behind this? Whenever I do trainings in outside organizations, they also go and ask like, why can't we make it resolve? Why? What is the concept behind making this default as resolve? Resolve means actually when we actually check in, this task get automatically closed, right? Okay. So why this is that way? Any reasons? Okay. Thing is like when you are working in agile or whatever methodology, when you have user stories and when you have tasks, a task should be the advice from any practice any process is to have task which is less than 8 hours or even less than 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours or less than that, right? And if you really need, you can go for 12 hours kind of tasks, right? Still you should check in to or commit to a repository something that is fully completed only, because it will affect the others, right? So when you are doing that, you should keep in mind. So how are we going? Okay, say we will have a 12-hour task, right? In that case, how are we going to make sure next day when I come, my tasks, whatever I have done, is saved permanently? That is why I am basically checking in the evening, right? Right. So what is the option for me? Right. Now, if I go home without checking in, tomorrow my machine may not work. So I will lose all the hard work that I have done during yesterday. So how to avoid that? Any ideas? No way. Right? We have to check in. Have you heard about something called shelf set and shelving?
Shelving.
What is shelving? Right? We can check in but not checking in, right? Simply you are checking in but not committing to the main repository, right? You are checking into the server, but it goes into a separate place, right? It is not affecting the main code branch, right, or anything, right? Actually the central repository is not affected. Your commit is temporarily stored in the TFS server. So you can retrieve your shelf set. Even someone else can also retrieve your shelf set. That's not a problem, right? But the work is why it is enabled to retrieved by someone else. Now, if your machine goes off, it's blown out and you don't have the workspace anymore, you should be able to recover it from another machine as well, right? Or from using another user even, right? So that is why that flexibility is there, right? So you can shelve. So that is the best way. Like if you are at the end of the day, if you are not done with your task, just shelve it. And shelving doesn't. When you are shelving, you don't have to assign it to a work item. Why? It is not done yet. So actually, when you are done with the work, only you are checking it, right? So it is default to resolve, which is correct, right? So you are done with the task, so you are checking, right? So we will check in. Right. Okay. Now this is our first check-in. Right. Now after first check-in, what is the first thing that we need to do as Visual Studio developers, or even if you have a different development system, but if you are using some kind of version control system, what is the first thing that you should do?
Updating the latest.
No, latest is what is that you checked in, right? Because you are the person who has created this thing. So what is the next thing? Right. Next thing is you have to make sure the integrity of the central repository. Now how are you going to make sure the integrity of the central repository? You have to create some kind of a policeman there. What is that policeman's name? Have you heard about something called continuous integration build? Now, most people take this term in a very wrong way. They think this is something related to continuous delivery. No, it's not continuous delivery. Continuous delivery is something else, right? Continuous integration. Word integration says that, right? It makes sure the integrity of your central repository. That is the continuous integration build. Don't think it as the release build or something that is queuing and then releasing to QA environments, all those things. No, that is not the case. Continuous integration build is there to make sure the central repository has a proper integrity, right? Okay, so the next thing that we are going to do is create a build definition, which is a continuous integration build, right, which will build each check-in, right? Okay, how can we do that? It's very simple again, right? We go to build and click on new build definition.
So each developer in the team should do this, or
No.
just one?
The person who is first
Checking.
creating the solution, and this build is for the entire team, right? Okay, we will just pin this thing, so you can see, right? Now again the name, right? Name should be meaningful, but it should be as short as possible. Why? Any reason behind that? Oh, how do you think this gets compiled? The central repository gets compiled. Somebody should be actually downloading and compiling that, right? So we call them what? We call them build agents, right? There's a concept called build controller and build agents. Now in Visual Studio Online, it is online hosted build controller that we are going to use, right? And we don't know where it gets built, but it will be definitely a Team Foundation server build agent, right? So if you are having your own build system, can you integrate with Visual Studio Online? That is one question. Because, right, at this very moment, if you have a SharePoint application, can you build with Visual Studio Online? What do you say? Not possible. Why? SharePoint, there is a requirement that you need to have SharePoint in the build server to build it. There's no other way. CRM solutions, you can build without CRM. Why? It's just a DLL reference, SDK DLL references. But SharePoint story is different, right? So you need to have a SharePoint installed machine. You don't need to configure it, but you need to install it to get the necessary assemblies in the correct places, right? Okay, so actually Visual Studio Online even supports your on-premises build server configurations. So you can use Visual Studio Online and you can configure a build controller and register it with Visual Studio Online account. So that build controller will make sure it directs to the build agents available in your on-premises machines, right? So that controller and agents should be installed in where? In your network, and you have to expose them to the controller. Should be registered with the TFS server or Visual Studio Online. So once you do that, what is the job of a controller? Now controller, does it do much of a work? No, right? It actually, what it does is it takes the queued requests and analyze that and identifies which agent can cater for this. How does it do that? Okay, there is a tagging system, right? Okay, now lot of things comes in, right? So okay, on hosted build controller nothing is there. So I'll, okay, while we are discussing this, I'll start up few things, then I can show you after about, I think 15 minutes few more things, right? So we will try to start primary domain controller first. Okay, let it start and we will further do this, right? So now you get me, right? Now it has a tagging system, then this tagging system is nothing but set of strings, right? So you can give particular string tags to your agents, right? Once the systems are up, I will show you how to create tags. But from those tags, those can be anything. Like for example, if you have an agent with Visual Studio 2010, you can say VS 2010, right? Visual Studio 2012 VS 2012, then it's SharePoint 2013 SP 2013, some kind of naming, right? So when you are creating build definitions, you can actually select those tags and ask the build controller. From the definition, you can ask the build controller to find the matching tags, right? So what the build controller will do is, the controller will, when the build is queued via that definition, it will look for agents having the same tags and direct the builds to available agents, right? Okay, there is another concept behind this build agents, right? That is also again very important. Okay, so how many agents can you have in a single machine? So what is the dependency? Anyone? What do you guess?
One.
Okay, I'll make the question a little bit easier. We say we have a 4-core machine. So what do you say? 4. Okay, so why did you say that, right? There's a reason behind that, right? Actually, how our multitasking is achieved? Time sharing, right, in CPU. But this compiling of a solution is something which is very much CPU intensive process, right? So you can actually see that. How can you see that? Just right click on a Visual Studio project and build and see the task manager, right? CPU hits 100, right? Until your build finishes, it's 100, right? So it's a very CPU intensive process, the compiling. So it needs full attention of a CPU core. So that is why it is recommended that you only create, no, actually it is not prohibited to do that, but it is recommended to have number of agents depending on the cores, right? Okay, that is TFS administration, right? We can discuss that later, but I just told you. Okay, now we can say this is our utility app or something. So utility, I'll just say utility dot ci, right? Why this name should be shorter? I told you that, right? What is the reason behind it? As short as possible, right? There is a limitation of 255 characters. For what? To have a folder path in Windows, right? You can't go beyond that, right? So this will be built by downloading to a build agent machine, right? Now in that build agent machine, if the path exceeds 255 characters, it can't find the file. So you have to make sure the names are as short as possible. So certain people are used to like define solution names like my friend's story or something, right? You write longer names. Don't do that, right? Have a brief descriptive name, brief and shorter descriptive name. Don't have 1, 2, 3 as well, right? That is not meaningful, right? Okay. Then we come to the trigger. Now you can see several triggers here. What are these? One is manual. It says checkings do not trigger a new build. Now, manual means manual, right? You don't have to say that, right? It actually, you have to manually intervene and queue a build, right? Now why do we have manual builds? What should be the manual build? Our release builds should be manual. Why? The release is decided by some human, right? It cannot be decided automatically. It should be decided manually. It's a human decision, right? So those builds should be manual. And this continuous integration, this is the policeman or the person who is going to make sure your central repository integrity is there. Okay, right. Then we have something called rolling builds. Why is that? There could be certain projects which takes long time to compile, right? In that case, if each and every check-in is compiled, what will happen to the build agents and the build server farm, right? It will be overloaded in no time. So in that case, if you have builds running more than 10 minutes or so, what should you do? You should create a rolling build which actually accumulates and builds in given time intervals, but it should run few times a day, right? Whatever checks in happen during that period will be built, right? So validated and send the alerts, right? We'll see how to send the alerts in few minutes, but we will first create the builds, right? Okay. The next one is gated checking, another concept, right? What is that? What is gated checking is for? What is a gate is for? The gatekeeper is the build system again. It actually, when you check in, it will not be committed to the repository. It will first try to get your change sets and the central repository version and combine them and download them and try to compile, right? Like the thing that you do, right, in your machine. Get latest and try to compile before checking in. So it does that, and then once it is done, if the build is successful, changes are committed to the server. Otherwise, changes are rejected from the server, right? So that is one way of having that policeman, right? But that is not the best way. Why? This will actually reduce the performance of your team, right? So even though this is available, this can be utilized for some maybe a scientific application or missile launch application maybe, right? Because it is really critical, right? So you can't check in some problematic code there. I don't know, right?
On an integrated build,
yeah.
if an error comes,
Yeah.
which would affect the rest of the team members, it should get fixed and their development will get paused, isn't it?
It's like this now. When you have continuous integration builds, say I am checking in, so rest of them are working in the team. So my solution will be immediately compiled, and the team-wide alert will be sent whether a build is failed or not, right? So we can configure those alerts, right? So that alert goes, and so we get the notification that build has failed, right? So we should actually not get the latest version there. That is the advice, right? Until the build is up and running again, we should not get the latest version. So we can continue working on our tasks without any problem, right? So that is why we are advising to always try to use continuous integration build rather than gated checking, because gated checking actually rejects changes. It can happen like this, right? You just check in something and you go home. So gated checking will reject this. You don't know until you come tomorrow, right? Oh, you get an alert, but you are not in the office to do anything. So somebody else can't also fix that. Why? It is totally rejected and available only in that person's local workspace now, right? So it's not possible, right? But with the continuous integration build, the team gets the alert. So in our case, like when we have global development teams, the other party can also get the latest version and try to fix the situation. Maybe a simple semicolon is missing, right? It can be easily fixed. So if something can be easily fixed, another team member can contribute and fix. Now, since you created the bug, I should not fix that concept, should not be there in a team, right? It is team effort. So team should help each other, right? Okay. Right. The other one is scheduled build. Now why this scheduled build is there? Again, say you have set of unit tests which is really fast to run, right? So you can integrate them with the continuous integration build, right? But you may have a smoke test suite which should be run time to time only, maybe nightly, maybe twice a week, right? But you need to make sure your application integrity is there by testing that using automated test suite, right? So you can configure daily builds, nightly builds using that scheduled build. So that build will happen, will be deployed using a deployment workflow, and then a test suite can run, right? So that is the purpose of having scheduled builds, right? So this is again fully automating things, right? So you can utilize it in different ways. Okay. So see, there is build even if nothing has changed. That is used for making sure the test cycle runs in the given period, right? Okay. Next part, source settings. What is that? This is again a biggest mistake when people are creating this build definitions. They make a lot of mistakes here. Last day I told you, right? Don't check in your source code here. Not source code, the other parts like documents, etc., CD images or anything, right? I told you, right, not to do that, right? So, and now when you need to compile particular solution or branch, right, you may not need, now if this is a branch and if you have so much of other code bases here, right, it can, I mean, a complex project may have multiple solutions, but you create a build definition maybe for few of them, the projects, right? So when you need to build particular project or particular solution, you don't need the other code to be downloaded, right? So don't waste space in build agents, right? Because it is limited space, right, in disks, right? So you don't have to waste a lot of things. So make sure you correctly find out the proper place to restrict these things, right? Okay, so where should we restrict this one? Now we should restrict this one at the branch level. Actually we don't have a branch, we have main, right? Why I'm saying branch level again? Why I'm saying that there could be a reference assembly folder outside of this solution, right, which should be sometimes, which may be required to do the compilation, right? So we should take it from the main, okay? And there can be multiple workspaces, and there is a possibility to exclude certain folders if you don't want them to be copied. For example, there may be a place in your version control, the build actually creates the drop location in the version control itself, right? So builds will compile and output will be available in the source control. Now that should not be considered as a workspace. Otherwise, what will happen? It will be a never-ending build. It builds and copies the drop to the drop location. Drop location is treated as a workspace, so it builds again. So this clock is for to exclude things inside these folders. Now inside the main folder, you can go and exclude certain folders, right? Okay. Right. Then build defaults. Now you can see we are selecting hosted build controller because my Visual Studio Online account is only registered with hosted build controller available as default, right? I don't have a on-premises build server or build controller registered with the online account. Now in TFS again there is different levels, right? Project collections and projects, right? So when you have project collections, can you have multiple build controllers for a project collection? Yes, it is possible. Can you share a build controller among few project collections? Build controller among few project collections. It is not possible. Why? Project collection level is topmost isolation level of the team foundation server concept, right? So by design, it is not allowed you to register a build controller to more than one project collection. So it is 1 to n relationship, right? So you can have many build controllers, but you only can have one project collection connected to a build controller, right? So that is why it is advised that when you are using on-premises TFS, don't create so much of project collections, right? You create limited number of project collections because you may need lot of infrastructure to support a project collection. A test controller can be only registered with a project collection, one project collection. You can have multiple test controllers, but one test controller can serve only one project collection, right? So infrastructure may be, requirement will be very high if you have 100 project collections. So have about 1 or 2 project collections in your organization, right? Okay. Then again, output options. Now for a continuous integration build, what should be the output option? Now what is the meaning of continuous integration build? Making sure the integrity of the central repository. So if you are making sure the integrity, do you need an output? No, right? You don't need an output. You just want to make sure it is compiling. That is it, right? So this build does not copy output files to a drop folder, right? So that is the thing. Okay. Then there is something called process. Now it is not easy to define a build, right? You can see, right? There are so much of steps, right? Okay. Now again, process. and it shows default template. Now by looking at the default template, can you actually amend that template? Should it be possible? Yes, of course, right? You can actually create your own build templates as well. Now what is the language used to create that templates? Can see SAML, right? It will be a SAML workflow. Now customizing a build template is a separate subject, so we will not discuss at this very moment, but you can customize to do anything that you want to do, right? As long as you know .NET and SAML a bit, you can do with it. Actually, I have created CRM compilable templates, and even I have introduced version controlling, like version numbers. You know, the assembly info, you have 1001, right? Kind of version numbering, 4-digit number. You can actually, once you download the source code into the build agent, you can manipulate those numbers to have a different number. So your build number, if it is having 4001, your all assembly files will have 4001. So you can innovate like that, right? So you can create different things. And so I had a requirement like this. Our build servers are in a separate location in North America, and our QA servers were in Sri Lanka. So downloading that output from the central build server to the local location was not easy, right? So how can you make, I mean, when you're downloading, okay, we'll say you have a web application which is having a lot of images and all those things. Those are tiny files, but there are hundreds of files. So when you're copying hundreds of files, it slows down the speed. So there's the way to make sure it copies faster is that making it a compressed file and downloading. So you can actually customize this build template to compress the output and drop as a compressed file, right? Then download it to a particular location and extract it there. So you can do it using a build template. So I have done it. That's why I'm without any fear saying that it is possible to do that, right? I have done it and it's working really nicely, right? I made a certain 500 MB around files to a 70 MB something zip file, and it downloads in 2-3 minutes. But if that 500 MB expanded version is downloading, what will happen, right? It will take few days to download the stuff, right? You know how Sri Lankan internet speed is, right? Okay.
Tell me about it.
Okay, so that is about templates. So we can later see maybe how to do that. Now you can see this is automatically pick the solution because there is only one solution available, right? Can you add multiple solutions or projects? Yes, you can go ahead and add many and many more, right? And you can set the configuration. Normally advised configuration is 1. Release any CPU, right? Okay. Depending on your requirement, again you can set this stuff, right? If you can have different configurations in your solution like QA, UAT, whatever, right? If you have that, you can actually go and even type that in. That is not a problem, right? It will be picked automatically, right? Okay. Then there's something called automated test, which we will skip for the time being. Once we create few tests, we can see how it works, right? Then clean workspace. I'll explain only the most required components, right? Okay, what is clean workspace?
Clean workspace.
Now, what is a workspace? Now you know, right?
Yeah.
It's the place that you have your source code, right? The space that you are having your source code. Now, actually, when the build is happening in the build agent, it needs to create a workspace and download source code, right? So what we are saying here is, regardless of the code is available in your workspace or not, clean them all, right? That means destroy everything and get it from the server. Why we are saying that? Maybe there can be problems, right? Because conflicts or something, right? Best thing is ask the build agent to remove your details and take it from the server. So that makes sure the server version is properly downloaded and built, right? But you have the options to take only changes or like that, right? So you can do like that, and then there's a lot of logging options. Okay, then this advanced section. Okay, see, certain instances, certain types of build projects will not support compiling using 64 platform, right? That doesn't mean that your output is not 64. You have to compile it in x86 mode. Output can be x64 mode, right? You get me, right? So this is saying ms build to execute as x86, right? If necessary, you can say to ms build to go for x86 and do this. Certain project types doesn't get built with auto, right? I mean, auto means it will build according to the available capability in the server, right? So you can make sure it builds in the same manner you build in Visual Studio, because Visual Studio will always compile in x86 mode, right? And output anything, right? Okay, because Visual Studio is running always on x86, right? Right? Whatever the machine you are using, it doesn't matter, it is always x86, right? Okay, we can leave it auto and see what happens, right? Okay, then you can see something called agent settings, and this is the most important part, right? You have to say match at least, right? And select the tags here. I don't know what are the tags available in online, right? We'll click and see. If there is no tags, we'll forget about that, right? We don't have to specify a tag, it will find the build server, and I expect it to support Visual Studio 2013, right? So there's no tags online. Actually there's no tags, but if you have your own build controller, which I will show you later. Okay, this machine is up.
Why it's taking too much time?
Which one? No, I have about several machines,
Oh.
so it needs to get, it's about 7 machines. Wait. We should not talk about that. Eh? Actually, using that, I mean, I can create an internal network. I mean, internal domain network. But with Hyper-V, I can't create an internal domain network. That is why I have used Oracle, right? There's an internal. You can see, right? There's something called internal network. You can see, right? Internal network Chamindane. So that is an internal network. So I have a primary domain controller here as well. So it's my own domain. So I want to actually create a domain and everything to display these things. So that is why I have that. Okay, let it run. So this way now it will use an agent where name is asterisk, name doesn't matter, and max wait time is 4 minutes. It's waiting 4 minutes to get properly queued, right? Okay. And there are a lot of other things, but I am not going to explain. One more thing I will explain, this get version. So you can build for a given change set even using the definition of when you are queuing the build, right? Okay. For the time being, we will go out of this process and we will move on to retention policy. Now you can see stop builds we don't need to keep actually. Yeah, if we have the latest, it's okay. Fail builds, it's better to keep at least around 10 or 5, right? Partially succeeded, yes, we will keep. Now what is partially succeeded? The solution compiles properly but the tests are failing, right? So that is partially succeeded, the compilation succeeds but you need tests, so attached test suite is failing, right? Okay, the succeeded. Now continuous integration builds, how many succeeded builds we should keep? Only the latest one, right?
Yeah.
We don't need other things because we are not even keeping output. For a release build, this should be keep all, right? Release builds we are not gonna destroy unless and otherwise we purposefully archive them and move them to somewhere else and destroy, right? Okay. For this one, keep latest only, right? Okay. Now what is this private build again? Now private build, when you do that, it will not be visible to anyone in the team, right? So you can privately build and see it is Okay. But normally, in my case, I rarely use these private builds. I always use trigger.
Because you're sure that I'm doing a mistake, right? So if I'm going to do it, I put a private comment.
Okay, now we have created a build definition, right? Now we can queue a build and see how it works, right? Okay. Now why we need to queue this? This is actually still on manual, right? Trigger. I have not set it to the proper thing. We'll go and set it. Trigger continuous integration, right? So you can see a difference when you do that, right? Save it, so it becomes like this. Says trigger type is continuous integration, right? Queue is enabled, right? Okay. Now first time we need to manually queue and see whether this is working, right? There's no other option, right? So we will queue new and you can see, right, it goes to this and parameters. You can actually here also change the parameters if necessary, certain parameters like which chain set you're going to build, right? So up to which chain set you want to build, that you can set it here. It takes some time to download the parameters, but you can use this advanced tab and say get version and provide the specify the version files, right? Okay, that is possible, right? But we will build the latest. We'll see what will happen until that is getting queued. Online build getting built is taking some time, so I'll move on to my local servers. So I'll start my build server, right? And I'll start my development environment as well.
You have machines for developing MPA and for the new check like that.
It's total environment.
Hey, you are connected?
Okay, it's in progress, right? Started 3 seconds ago, right? So it is progressing and this is also progressing, right? So what can we do? We'll wait. Okay, we can create an alert if a failure is there, right? That we can go and do right now because we have a definition, right? Okay. Now, how can you create an alert in the Foundation server? Right? Home. Okay. One option is you can go to Visual Studio, right? There is something called Team Project Alerts. This will take you to the alerts page, right? Or in web portal, you can click on this icon, right? It will take you to the admin mode, right? So alert sections, everybody normally has permission. The contributors has permissions to the alert section. So contributors have alert section, so you can create alerts for yourself, right? I'll show you what are the alerts, then you will understand what I am saying, right? Okay, alerts. Now there are several types of alerts, right? Now I'm seeing a lot of alerts here, right? Now in this project, team alerts, nothing, right? So you have work item alerts. Right? So work item alerts, if you click new, what are the alerts that you can create? A change is made to a work item. So you can actually create an alert when you are assigned with a work item, right? So that is also possible. But don't create such alerts if you really not require them. Why? Then it will spam a lot to your email box and you will not like that, right? So it's better to create an alert to do what? To only required things. And there is something called check-in alert. So I could not give this as a solution to for the last question. Why I could not give as a solution? Because in his scenario there was no activity happen. There's no event. Right? Without an event, I can't generate an alert. So that should be something that should be developed. Right? Okay. Right? Okay. Now we are going to create what? a build alert, right? And we want to know if a build fails, right? We want to send a team alert, right? So the team members' email addresses will be sent with an email, right? Okay. Okay. Right? So unfortunately, we won't be able to see the alert, right? It will send to my Yahoo account, right? You can go log into Yahoo account and see, but it's not necessary, right?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. Maybe when another can pop
Yeah.
back or
Only via email, right? So okay, I'll show you, maybe I don't know. We'll see whether we can see using Mailinit or something. Yeah, we can do that. Right? What we can do is, without creating it as a team alert, we can go and okay, we'll create a team alert as well, and I'll show you how to create a team alert. Now I want to add another clause and say what I need an alert if the status is equal to partially succeeded as well. Right? Is this query correct? I can say O even. Is it correct? No. Right? Should actually group this. Right? Because if you want to add more and conditions, should be grouped, right? Because there's no situation called failure and partially succeed both happens. No. Right? So you need to understand simple logics to do these things, right? Okay. Then we will create members default addresses, and we will create another alert, right? Another alert. We will create it as my alert and build trace, and we will create it as right. Hi, you can set it as plain text soap, right? So you can send it as different formats, right? HTML is okay, right? Okay. Okay, it depends on your requirement, right? Okay. So we can create an alert like this. Status partially succeeded, right? We group this, right? Then we are going to edit this and add another mail address, right? So to do the demo, I'll say demo sf at mailinmaker.com. This works, right? Normally, have you ever used this? Okay, I'll try this, right? Mailinator, if I remember, right? There's a site called Mailinator which allows you to test email, right? So I'm trying to do this. No, this is actually creating an alert when a build is failed, when a work. This is the only possibility of generating alerts using TFS. That's why I wanted to have an event. In your scenario, we don't have an event, so we can't create an alert, right?
ඒක හැබැයි මැද්දට ඉවෙන්ට් එක පුෂ් කරගන්න පුළුවන් ටක් ගාලා. මැද්දට ඉවෙන්ට් එකක් දාලා.
Okay. But how to create an event? No, events are automatically generated.
Timeline timestamp එක බලලා. ඒකට ක්‍රියේට් කරනවා ඉවෙන්ට් එක.
Where?
බැලුවා.
Events are automatic things in TFS. We have to do some action to get an event. Okay. Right, now we have two alerts. I'll go to that again. The problem with this is there might be some bad images, so close your eyes. Yeah, sometimes, right? Because this is it's not even loading. Is it something to do with my internet? No. No,
content filter එකක් තියෙනවා මාරයි.
Go to Google and say. Huh?
AI filter එකක්.
Okay.
Oh,
What is the email address that we have? Demo.sl, right? Check it, right? See, it's very simple way to test your email applications, right? So this is the inbox of the demo.sl. There's no mail, right? We have to fail a build to see an email, right? Okay, we'll fail a build and see. First, our build is succeeded now, right? So our source code is properly working, right? So we will create a failure, right? How can we create a failure? We go to our solution. Failures are very easy, right? You go here and you just erase something, erase semicolon, and just without worrying, you can see, right? This is productivity power tools, right? Helping you. And check it. Right? Okay. I'm not gonna associate or do anything like that. Just checking. So it's checked in. There should be a build queued automatically. Right? You can see it's in queue. Right? So it will take some time. So we will move back to my machine. Right? Okay. Don't worry about this right now. Right. What I will do is I will show you a few builds. And few more things here, right?
Okay, we build time එක අපිට push කරන්න විදිහක් තියෙනවා. Okay. processor thread එකේ වශයෙන් TFS එකෙන් build engine එකෙන් agent එකෙන් add කරගෙන උටෝන වෙලාවට build කරන්න. සමහර වෙලාවට queue එකේ ගොඩක් තිබුණොත් එහෙම පැය භාගයක් විනාඩි 40ක් විතර යනවා වෙන build එකක් ඉවර වෙනවා. queue එකට add කරනවා. මට situations ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා.
First problem එක, right? You are not having enough build servers and agents, right? That's one thing. But the way to address that if that is necessary now, there's something called actions. Yes, actions manage queue.
Okay.
Right? Actions manage queue. Now there will be queued builds here, but that is again for a team project, right? So you can right click and set the priority. Again, even if you set the priority, podi ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා. Again, it gives the priority to prioritize items. Habai, there's no guarantee it will be immediately picked. You have to stop the other build. This one you can actually right click and change the priority, right? Again, there's no guarantee. Now I'm gonna show you. This is my on-premises. Now you can see a lot of things, right? Now once you check in, see, right? These things are not available online, right? Okay. So if you have the local version, it is indicated. So if there is a better version or latest version in the server, it will also get indicated here, right? And the changes, how many changes, and even the associated work items with this one, right? So the code lens is really powerful and it is only available in on-premises, so go for on-premises. No, it's okay, right? I think online, yeah. If you can build this feature into online, that would be more and more hot selling for the code lens.
Yeah, but I don't think it's...
Why this is not available? No, why this is not available is I think because of the connectivities and all those things. Like you need faster connectivities to achieve these things, right? Otherwise this will not work nicely, right? If you move the mouse and it takes ages to load, means it's not nice. I think that is why, that is the reason behind this is not in online, right? Okay, anyway, it's nice feature in this thing, right? So still it is queued, see. Okay, we will queue okay, sure. What do you want to say?
Navigate again.
Which navigate?
Details scroll by.
Okay. This one?
Additional quality මොනවද තියෙන්නේ?
It's like this. You can have breakpoints, whatever. It will be shown here. If there is code error, right, we'll make an error.
Light blue curve.
It shows the method scope that I'm in.
Default in
No, this comes with Productivity Power Tools, Visual Studio Gallery by Microsoft.
මකිත් දෙන්නේ නැහැ ඒක නම්.
මේක කියලා හරියනවා.
Comes.
ඔව්. නෑ මේ ඉන්ස්ටෝල් කරලා නෙවෙයි මේ මැෂින් එක ටෙස්ට් කරලා මැෂින් එක ටෙස්ට් කරලා ඊට පස්සේ හරියට.
ඒ මගේ නම් කීවරක් ටෙස්ට් කරලා.
Support
ඒකේ සමහරට
preview
version එකක්
එක-
දාන්න.
ඔය මේ ගැලරි එකක් ටිකක් බලන්න.
Okay, right. Okay. Okay.
7:30 නවත්තනවද?
You want? Yes, I can.
Today, high tech don't have this.
Okay, we'll stop at 7:30 and we will continue in the next day. But
That means 6:30 the office.
okay. Hemantave, this will not be a complete session, right? That online version is not seem to be building something, so I will check in this one, right? And we will continue on the branching, right? Okay, if I start branching, I don't know.